Welcome to the Zono Sports Show, where you know Zonos March Madness. No, we're not talking about Future Song. It's got too much sauce. We've got a lot of teams that are playing this March that want to win a championship, but who will actually win the championship? Now, see, I promised you all that I would share my bracket with you all. So, this episode, we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to go through my entire bracket because I got to give you some juice before the tournament, of course. Now, this is my official ESPN Tournament Challenge bracket. Okay, this isn't fake. I didn't make it up. It's printed, not written in. This is it right here. So now I look at all these matchups and I see a lot of teams that could potentially make a run. A lot of teams that are highly seeded that shouldn't be highly seeded. A lot of teams that are lower seeded that shouldn't be lower seeded. So we can just start in the Eastern region, and I look at this region. Yeah, we got the champs. They want to go back to back. Villanova, they finished last year on a buzzer beater. Now, they play either Mount St. Mary's in New Orleans that first game. Villanova, I see them winning that game. You go to their potential second-round matchup. That's Wisconsin versus Virginia. Virginia, they play really fast. Wisconsin likes to play a little bit of that slow ball. I like Wisconsin in that game. UVA versus UNC Wilmington. I like Virginia. You got the 4-seed Florida against the 13-seed East Tennessee State. I like TJ Cromer for East Tennessee State and the Indiana transfer, Mosqueda Perea. He's got a lot of rebound ability, and East Tennessee State pushes the pace. However, Kayvon Allen, however you say that, he's a baller for Florida, and he can shoot the ball from outside, so that'll be an interesting matchup. I think there could be a potential upset, but I picked Florida. SMU, Southern Methodist University from the AAC versus Providence. Providence, or who are they playing? Who is Providence playing? That 11 seed matchup, I've got SMU winning that game. Now, a Texas versus Texas matchup, that's Baylor and New Mexico State in the first round. They'll likely beat New Mexico State. Baylor's a 3 seed. They'll play SMU that second round. That'll be an interesting game, but we'll get to that in a minute. South Carolina, they play Marquette. And I like Marquette, the 10 seed, beating the 7 seed South Carolina. Thornwell, yes, he can hurt you late in the game, but Marquette can score points. They play defense. I think they played in a much tougher conference. People say the SEC wasn't down, but you look at that conference top to bottom, I think the SEC was down this year. So I like Marquette to win that. And then, of course, Duke over Troy. Duke, the 2 seed against the 15. Duke over Troy in that game. Now, we'll go ahead and move down to the West. You got Gonzaga, South Dakota State. Gonzaga should win that. Northwestern and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt flopped like a bad CD late down the stretch. I like Northwestern because it's their first time in the tournament and they're hungry. Now, Notre Dame and Princeton, two very, very similar teams, but Notre Dame's like more of a meat lover's pizza and Princeton's more of just a plain sausage and pepperoni compared to these guys offensively. So I like Notre Dame over Princeton. That's a 5 seed over the 12. 4 seed Virginia over 13 seed Bucknell in the West. I like West Virginia. They call them Press Virginia. I think they'll press Bucknell enough. It's nothing Bucknell's seen all year, so it'll be tough for them. Maryland, the 6 seed versus Xavier, the 11 seed. I like the guards, Cowan and Trimble. Melo, he never trembles. He's always calm. He's always steady. He gets it done. So I like Melo Trimble to beat Xavier. I like Maryland, the 3 seed. Florida State and Florida Gulf Coast. People are picking Florida Gulf Coast over Florida State. Do you really think they're going to let these in-state boys beat them from Tallahassee? These Tallahassee, Florida State Seminoles are going to make sure they handle business. They'll beat Florida Gulf Coast. They're the 3 seed. They'll play Maryland second round. St. Mary's, VCU. I like VCU. However, I think St. Mary's, they've got what it takes this year to have one of those Omar Samhan type runs and beat VCU, go to the second round, where they'll see Arizona, because Arizona, they play North Dakota. Yeah, North Dakota State, I know about those Bison up there as far as football goes, but the North Dakota Eagles, I want to say, I'm not going to take you over Arizona ever in a million years. Now, in the Midwest, Kanye would say, yeah, we in the Midwest. So Kansas versus either North Carolina Central or UC Davis. Kansas obviously will win that first round matchup. 16's never beaten a 1. We all know that. Miami versus Michigan State. Miami, the 8 seed versus the 9 seed. I like Izzo in the tournament in March. However, his team's down this year. They've got Miles Bridges. Aaron Harris got hurt. That didn't help them as far as defense goes, as well as a little bit of offense. but they still got Tum Tum Nairn and key pieces. But I like Miami and Jim Larinaga to get that done. Kansas and Miami second round. Iowa State should beat Nevada with Monte Morris. Phenomenal Big 12 tournament. Unexpected by far. Purdue versus Vermont. Purdue got upset last year by Arkansas Little Rock. I don't see them playing around with Vermont. This game could get ugly early because they remember what happened last year, and they still have the Haas and the Swanigans and all those guys. Creighton versus Rhode Island. Now, you guys may not like this pick, but I like Rhode Island to beat Creighton just because of what happened with Maurice Watson. He tore his knee up, and then he had the legal issues, and Creighton just has not been the same team. Marcus Foster, great guard, but I thought he was the key star to that team, but obviously he wasn't because they struggled down the stretch. They faltered. Mo Watson hasn't been there, so I like Rhode Island and E.C. Matthews. Came back from the reconstructed knee. He's balled out all year. This team is deep. I like the way they played Duke early in the year. They showed they can play tough with the team. So I really think that Rhode Island is a team that could potentially, as an 11 seed, as an 11 playing a 6, make a potential run. Now, go to the next game. Oregon and Iona. They'll play. It's a 3 seed versus the 14 seed. Oregon should win that game. Iona can score, but probably not with Oregon. Michigan versus Oklahoma State. Now, Michigan, yeah, they're hot. They won the Big Ten tournament. Yeah, that's a feel-good story. But don't you think a couple days off, a little bit of this excitement and ambition about playing basketball after the plane accident could maybe wind down a little bit? Now, you play Oklahoma State, who scores points. Michigan scores points, but Oklahoma State's going to run and gun, and that's not really Michigan's game. Michigan, yeah, they shoot threes out of a half-court set, but they're not really a run-and-gun type team. They can get up and down the floor. They've got athletes, but I like Oklahoma State in this game. I took Oklahoma State as a 10 seed to beat Michigan. Then they play Louisville, the 2 seed, who should beat Jacksonville State easily. Now, we go down to the South region. North Carolina versus Texas Southern. Shout out to my daddy. He coached there. UNC should beat Texas Southern, no problem. Then you got Arkansas versus Seton Hall, 8 versus 9 matchup. Give me those Razorbacks picks. Whee! And then Middle Tennessee State versus Minnesota. In the first round, 5 versus the 12. Reggie Upshaw, I like him. I like Giddy Potts as a shooter. Middle Tennessee State, I'm not picking him because of the popular pick. I'm picking him because they have a team that they had last year. They beat a better Michigan State team that was better last year. So I like Middle Tennessee State to win that game against Minnesota. Butler and Winthrop. Winthrop can score, but Butler plays D. I like Butler to win that as the 4 seed over the 13. Cincinnati versus either Wake Forest or Kansas State. Now, Wake Forest and Danny Manning, they are building something. John Collins is a star, a baller, B-A-L-L-E-R. John Collins and Wake Forest should win that Kansas State game. I like Wake Forest beating Cincinnati. I didn't like the way Cincinnati played against SMU in that AAC championship. So give me Wake Forest and John Collins because I think they have a magical march ahead of them. Not saying they'll make the Sweet 16, but Wake Forest will go that second round. UCLA versus Kent State. Lonzo Ball should get that done. Dayton, the 7 seed, and by the way, UCLA is the 3 seed versus the 14. Dayton, the 7 seed versus 10 seed Wichita State. I like Wichita State just because they have had success all year. Dayton struggled a bit down the stretch. I don't like the consistency they showed me in the A10 tournament, even late in the season. I don't like it. I think Scoochie Smith has struggled a little bit. And they need Scoochie Smith, who got them famous in the tournament years ago with the run they had with Pollard and all those guys. I think that they're a great team, but Wichita State with Shaq Morris and Landry Shamet, I think that they'll overwhelm Dayton with their size and their versatility. I like Wichita State as a 10 seed to beat Dayton. Kentucky, the 2 seed versus Northern Kentucky. First time in the tournament, they're the 15th seed. Kentucky should take care of them. But Northern Kentucky, if you need recruits, keep it close. Keep it close. Now, we're down to our the 32, round of 32. So it's our second round. Consider the third round because they have the first 4. Now, Villanova and Wisconsin. Give me Wisconsin. Yeah, that may seem odd to knock off Villanova that early, but I think Wisconsin played in a little tougher conference. And I think that Wisconsin, with the way they play ball, I think that they can defensively handle Villanova and keep them in check. Chris Jenkins, great player. Josh Hart, great player. He'll make plays. Player of the Year candidate. However, I like Wisconsin in that 1 versus 8 matchup. Now, Florida and Virginia in the East region, 5 versus a 4. I like Florida to win that game because Virginia struggled to score at many points throughout the year, and you just wonder, when is this going to come back and bite them in the butt? Well, I think it will be a gator bite. So pay attention to that game. Florida should win, play Wisconsin second round. Sweet 16. SMU and Baylor. Baylor has the size. They started out hot in the year. They had the bad game at West Virginia and kind of faltered ever since. But Baylor Bears, they can get it done. I think they can win that game against SMU. It's a battle for Texas. They'll win that game. Then you got Marquette and Duke in the round of 32. Marquette, I think this could be a game where they actually get blown out just because Duke, they're going to pour points on them, and I think Marquette, they won't be able to play enough defense to score back and forth with Duke, and I think Duke will play the much better defense, and they'll win that game. Now, we move to the West region. Gonzaga versus Northwestern. I like Northwestern to knock off Gonzaga early, so that's 2 1 seeds already gone. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Northwestern should get that done and go to the Sweet 16. And then Notre Dame versus West Virginia. I like Notre Dame because of Bonzie Colson and Matt Farrell, as well as Vestoria, what they do on the perimeter, and then Bonzie Colson, how he can bring you inside out. He's a tweener guy, 6'8", 6'9", with the long, gadgety arms. I like Notre Dame to make a decent run. We can say they'll beat West Virginia. 6 seed Maryland versus number 3 Florida State. I like Florida State beating Maryland because of the size. Second tallest team in the NCAA. Tallest team in the NCAA would be the second tallest team in the NBA if they were in the NBA. So that just gives you some perspective as to how tall Florida State is with guys like Michael Ojo and things like that. So St. Mary's versus Arizona. This West Coast matchup, give me Arizona just because of Lauri Markkanen, and I like a lot of the players that Arizona has, Comanche, who can really force you to take a lot of bad shots because they have so much length. And then they got Alonzo Trier. Ever since he's come back, they've been a whole nother team. So I like Arizona to win that game. Now, moving over to the other side of the bracket, Midwest, Kansas versus Miami. I think Kansas wins that game against Miami. Iowa State versus Purdue. Give me Iowa State just because of the tempo. It'll be a tempo game up and down. Give me Iowa State beating Purdue. Rhode Island versus Oregon. Give me Rhode Island because Oregon, I think they've been traumatized by the Chris Boucher loss. And I think Rhode Island is a team that could score with them and play better defense. I do. I think Rhode Island has a little bit of March magic within themselves that they want to show us here soon. So that's what I'm waiting on. Now, Oklahoma State versus Louisville. Oklahoma State can score. However, I think Louisville, with their versatility and their size at the forward spot, in the way that Mahmoud's developed and took his game to another level, I like Louisville to win that game. Now, drop down to the South, UNC versus Arkansas. Give me the Heels over the Hogs. And Middle Tennessee, the 12 seed versus Butler. I still think Cinderella's out past midnight. Middle Tennessee should beat Butler. I like Middle Tennessee. I think they're a good team, and I think they got a taste of March last year, and they're hungry. They're hungry this year, so I think they want to play 2-3 games in this tournament. Wake Forest versus UCLA. I'm sorry, Wake Forest and Danny Manning, John Collins won't be enough to take on Lonzo Ball. UCLA go to the second Sweet 16. Wichita State versus Kentucky. Now, these teams played a few years ago in the tournament. However, give me Kentucky in that game because I like Monk and Fox and the way they're coming together somewhat at this point. So I think they'll win that game against Wichita State just because of talent, purely talent, because Wichita State's a good team. They've got talent, but Kentucky's got a little more, and I think Bam will be too much for Morris down low. Now, we're at the Elite Eight. Let's turn up. Let's get it done. Now, my Elite Eight selections, Wisconsin and Florida. You look at Wisconsin and Florida, and these are two different teams, play two different styles. Florida can play the half-court game, but they'd rather run up and down. Like I said, Wisconsin, they're a team, Ethan Happ, that can Koenig and Nigel Hayes. Those guys understand basketball, and I'm not saying Florida players don't, but Wisconsin, they will get that win. They'll go to the Elite Eight. Baylor and Duke. Baylor's lost all the big games as of late. Give me Duke in that game, and Grayson and Kennard and Tatum and all the boys. Northwestern and Notre Dame. They played earlier in the year in the Barclays Center. Notre Dame won that game. I think Notre Dame will win that game again. See you, Northwestern. Go home. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming. Florida State versus Arizona. Give me Arizona just because of the way they can score. I think Florida State, they will have issues when they play a team that is athletic and superior like Arizona. Even with all that height they have, give me Arizona going to the Elite Eight. And then Kansas and Iowa State. Now, they played 2-3 times this year, well, twice this year. And Iowa State, I like Iowa State to beat Kansas because just of how they played them this year. I mean, Iowa State's a team that you really have to look out for because of DeAndre Burton, because of Monte Morris, because of not Naz Mitri Long. They have a lot of players that can all score and give you 20, 25 on any given night. So give me Iowa State against Frank Mason and Josh Jackson. They got too much going on. Josh Jackson, he can't stay out of the news. So give me Iowa State to win that game. And Rhode Island and Louisville, this is a game that they probably are blessed to get an opportunity to play because it's against a team like Rhode Island. And I think Louisville, they never really struggled with mid-majors. So just off of that fact alone, I'm going to take Louisville in that game. North Carolina versus Middle Tennessee State. North Carolina, this is a whole nother beast for Middle Tennessee State. I think Middle Tennessee State will be shut down after that Butler game. North Carolina will beat the 12th seed Middle Tennessee State. And then UCLA versus Kentucky. They've already taken care of Kentucky. How can I not go with Lonzo Ball? How can I not do that? So give me Lonzo Ball. Give me Thomas Welsh. Give me Steve Alford. Give me Bryce Alford. Steve is his daddy. Steve's the coach. So I like UCLA to win that game again against Kentucky. They beat them at the crib, so you don't think they're going to beat them at a neutral site? Yeah, right. Give me UCLA. So my Elite Eight, Wisconsin, Duke, Notre Dame playing Arizona, Iowa State playing Louisville, UNC versus UCLA. Give me Wisconsin and Duke in the final. Duke versus Wisconsin. Give me Duke in the Final Four because Duke, they've got something magical. And Coach K, he's pulled it together right at the right time. They went on that long run, won the ACC championship. I like Duke just because of what they showed me in the ACC championship against North Carolina. So give me Duke over Wisconsin. Notre Dame, Arizona. This is where Notre Dame's luck runs out for the Irish. Give me Arizona in that game. And then Iowa State, Louisville. I think the Cards have another run in them like 2013. I think they'll beat Iowa State because I think Iowa State will cool off. I think that week off not the week off. They get the week off and then go to the Elite Eight. But I think that tough game against Kansas will wear them out. Louisville will be much more rested against Rhode Island. So give me Louisville to win that Iowa State game. It's 2 days, a day in between for rest. UNC and UCLA. UNC's great, but I just think Lonzo Ball, we're going to see why his dad talks so much about him this tournament. And I think UCLA will win that game against North Carolina. That sets up a Final Four. Duke versus Arizona, Louisville, UCLA. Give me UCLA over Louisville. Yeah, I'm in the city, but I got to call out the Bruins first. And then give me Duke over Arizona. Just because I think Markkanen and all those guys, Trier, they're good, but I think Duke has a much more deeper team, much more deeper, with Giles and Emil Jefferson, Matt Jones. They've got a lot of pieces. And I think Duke will win that game and go to the national championship. Now, Duke versus UCLA. Who wins that game? Well, UCLA's been the highest scoring team all year. Who did I take? My final score, winning score, 90-85. Give me UCLA as the national champion. That's who I like. That's me giving you my bracket picks in 10 minutes. Easy, cake, done. Now, my women's 1 seeds, I want to touch on the women's tournament. UConn, Notre Dame, South Carolina, Baylor. UConn already took care of South Carolina. And I'm pretty sure they played. Did they play Notre Dame this year? If they did, I'm sure they beat them. But I know they beat South Carolina to win their 100th game. Now, I look at this whole tournament, and I say, yeah, you can say, oh, there's some variety in here, but who's going to beat UConn? Somebody step up and beat UConn. Somebody. Because every year, is it just these girls are scared of UConn, or is it just UConn's really that good? And I'm calling out women's basketball. I'm calling out all of the ladies playing in the NCAA tournament. Beat UConn. Beat them. Nobody can seem to step up and take care of this task. So I put that onus on you all. Somebody out there, if you hear me, beat UConn. Now, next show, we've got some tourney talk and matchup talk to do, specifically about games on Thursday. And I'll fill you back in on the rest of the sports world. I'll get back into that. But I had to give you my bracket picks today. This was a bracket edition episode. So don't be salty at me. I'll talk about all that NBA juice, NFL juice, and where Tony Romo's going to go next time. Now, thank you for watching the Zono Sports Show. And good luck on your tournament brackets. And you know Zoe knows some NCAA March Madness.